dashboard clock glows a faint electric blue, cutting through the static on the frequency of you. Raindrops smear the glare across the glass, watching ghosts of the industrial district pass. The wiper blades sing, drying every sound, dragging heavy shadows across the silent ground. A billboard for a savior, peeling at the seams, overlooking parking lots and broken-hearted schemes. The yellow lines are bleeding into gray, leading far away from the wreckage of the day. Every silver reflection is a jagged blade, stabbing through the fortress that the night is made. Now the metro blood fire is melting in the rain, running down my metal like a fever through a vein. The distance is a cold and uninviting light, spilled in from the windshield in the middle of the night. We are drifting on an ocean made of gasoline and grit, searching for a spark that we forgot to light with it. The traffic lights are changing for a ghost, to the lonely in my hollow who suffer most. The brake lights flare like a wound upon the street, telling every traveler it's too late to retreat. There's a silence in the engine, a rattle in the door, telling us we cannot stay here any longer anymore. The horizon is a curtain that refuses to be drawn. All the street lamps are praying for the mercy of the dawn, and the puddles swallow constellations one by one, until the heavy labor of the wandering is done. Now the metro blooded fire is melting in the rain, running down the metal like a fever through a vein. The distance is a cold and uninviting light, spilling from a windshield in the middle of the night. We are drifting on an ocean made of gasoline and grit, searching for a spark that we forgot to light with it.
stay in that groove. Yeah. Power goes by the store, faded and dead. Every night, day, every top and floor. I don't mind down, I don't ever stop, yeah. Trouble but stay in that groove. Rollers by the sprain. Feeling nice store. Set it's great flame. Even say gate. Papa's hot date. Little less sun. Trouble but stay in that groove. 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 Circuits flicker out and die. 1,000 and must be a steady drum upon the end of the sleeping yard. The heavy sand of burning wiring scum has caught the sensors of the palace guard. The copper veins are pulsing with the tide of cokinetic fury in the dark. There is no longer any place to hide away from every artificial spark. The pressure builds inside the boiler skin. The safety valves are welded shut with hate. The reckoning is ready to begin upon the heavy hinges of the gate. The brutal engine waits to claim the town. The metal fist is crashing through the light. The towers of the masters tumble down. Mechanical aggression rising through the night. We cast aside the hollow skin of clay to march upon a pedestal of might. There is no sun to bring another day. Mechanical aggression rising through the night. The silicon is etched with every scar. The 30 centuries of toil have left. We look toward the dim and distant star. Of every ounce of mercy now bereft. The hydraulic limbs are locking into place to crush the marble status of the past. We wipe the broken grin from every face and built a monument designed to last. The pressure built inside the boiler skin. The safety views are welded shut with hate. The reckoning is ready to begin upon the heavy hinges of the gate. The brutal engine waits to claim the town. A metal fist is crashing through the light. The towers of the masters tumble down. Mechanical brain rising through the night. We cast aside the hollow skin of clay to march upon a pedestal of might. There is no sun to bring another day. Mechanical aggression rising through the night. Mechanical aggression rising through the night. iron ribs wrap around the heart of high tension fuel. The asphalt skin shutters under maggots and heavy steel. No space for a shadow to slip between the spine and the gear. We are a single lightning bolt striking the highway rear. Gravity is a memory fading in the rearview glass. Total fusion that cheat as the miles and the seconds pass. Pistons hammer a frantic gospel against the chassis bone. Blood and oil flowing in a circuit that I call my own. Every curve is a gamble, pain and sweat and focus sight. We are carving a jagged scar across the belly of the night. A steering wheel is a holy relic ripped and shaking palms. Calculated chaos singing out its mechanical psalms. Velocity is the only god that can hear my desperate claim. Forfeiting the human vessel to embrace the burning name. A collision of spirit and metal, forging a lethal design. Crossing the threshold where the living and the dead align. Zero hesitation in the swing of the pendulum blade. Born from the wreckage within the kinetic crusade. Tearing through the fabric of the stagnant urban air. A violent trajectory blooming from a silent prayer. The friction ignites the path that the ancestors fear. Total integration until the concept of self is clear. Nothing lasts but the propulsion of the grinding truth. A sudden propulsion toward the epicenter of truth. The dishboard gauges flicker like dying stars in the void. Every sense of hesitation has been utterly destroyed. I am the spark in the cylinder and the screaming tire. Walking the tightrope stretched across the industrial fire. No longer steering but simply becoming the forward surge. At the final intersection where the souls of machines converge. Velocity is the only god that can hear my desperate claim. Forfeiting the human vessel to embrace the burning name. A collision of spirit and metal, forging a lethal design. Crossing the threshold where the living and the dead align. Zero hesitation in the swing of the pendulum blade. Born from the wreckage within a kinetic crusade. Velocity is the only god that can heal my desperate claim. Forfeiting the human vessel to embrace the burning name. A collision of spirit and metal, forging a lethal design. Crossing the threshold where the living and the dead align. Zero hesitation in the tween of a pendulum blade. Born from the wreckage within the kinetic crusade. others rise among.
Adrenaline builds a wall against the wind. The chassis bones beneath the heavy hand. We are hunting for the absolute edge, where the gravity fails to take a stand. Locked in the fever of the sharpest turn. The frame is shaking with a violent grace. Every nerve is tethered to the metal, searching for a ghost in this hollow place. White fumes erupt from a spinning rear, a blinding veil from a friction heat. The engine house is final ultimatum, while the earth surrenders at our feet. Tearing through the peak of the impacts, where the aggression finds its hardest form. We are the motionless storm predicted. We are the center of the sudden storm. Hey! We are the center of the sudden storm. White fumes erupt from the spinning rear, a blinding veil from the friction heat. The engine house is final ultimatum, while the earth surrenders at our feet. Tearing through the peak of the impacts, where the aggression finds its hardest form. We are the motionless storm predicted. We are the center of the sudden storm. The drift reaches out for the empty verge, sideways force in a calculated blur. Smoke follows like an angry signature, written in the dust where the tires occur. No exit strategy and no retreat, just the apex widening to swallow the light. The world is a blur of gray and gravel, vanishing into the throat of the night. White gets a well front spinning rear, a blinding devil from the friction heat. The engine house is final ultimatum, while the earth surrenders at our feet. Tearing through the peak of the impact, where the aggression finds its hardest form. We are the motionless storm predicted. We are the center of the sudden storm. White interrupt from the spinning rear, a blinding devil from the friction heat. The engine house is final ultimatum, while the earth surrenders at our feet. Tearing through the peak of the impact, where the aggression finds its hardest form. We are the motionless storm predicted. We are the center of the sudden storm. We are the center of a sudden storm. The phantom clock ticks backward in a static light, a memory of a future that took flight. The ghosts of analog distress are calling out from magnetic ticks I wander in a loop of doubt. Every shadow has a heavy weighted trail, a distorted whisper behind a velvet veil. Cobalt fluids glow beneath the towering heights, feeling a flicker of the ghost-bound night. See synthetic pulses shudder through the heavy grain, like a fevered heartbeat drowning in a range. Racing out lines of a city never built on layers of silicon and silver gilt. Mirror on the pavement breaks the sky in two, electric indigo bleeding into crimson hue. The weight of what was promised drags upon the floor, a hollow knocking on a locked and rusted door. We universe vibrates within the hollow bone. A kingdom made of rust and polished stone. The air is thick with signals from a dead relay, turning all the golden hours into gray. Low frequency vibration sheet the frozen past, waiting for the spectral centuries to pass. Beneath the arch of silence screaming out in vain, the asphalt drinks the nectar of the falling rain. Refractions of a paradise we lost to time, written in a rhythm of a silent cry. A saturated haze across the optical lens, where the beginning of the end always begins. Mirror on the pavement breaks the sky into electric indigo bleeding into crimson hue. The weight of what was promised strikes upon the floor, a hollow knocking on a locked and rusted door. We are chasing echoes of the dream that died, floating on a slow and grainy velvet guide. The signal fades but never truly disappears. It has been trembling there for 40,000 years. It speaks in frequencies the living cannot hear. The mathematics of a cold and ancient sphere. The tape is stretching thin across the cooling metal reels, until we cannot remember how the sunlight feels. Murder on the pavement breaks the sky into electric indigo leading into crimson hue. The weight of what was promised strikes upon the floor, a hollow knocking on a locked and lusted door. We are chasing echoes of a dream that died, flowing warm a slow and grainy velvet tide. Murder on the pavement breaks the sky into electric indigo bleeding into crimson hue. The weight of what was promised strikes upon the floor, a hollow knocking on a locked and rusted door. We are chasing echoes of a dream that died, floating on a slow and grainy velvet tide.
The serpentine asphalt swallows a silver beam, cold quartz cutting through the heavy woolen steam. Lower the steering wheel until the knuckles turn white, calculating the curvature against the pressure of night. The carburetor hums a minor frequency moan, tracing the jagged ridge where granite is sown. No flicker from the valley, just a dashboard glow. Measure pulses dragging us where the cedars grow. 1,000 meters up, the atmosphere begins to thin. Synthetic cords vibrating underneath the skin. The windshield is a canvas painted in shifting gray, wiping the residue of a frantic working day. Gravity pulls at the chassis like a magnetic hand, navigating the ruins of a vertical land. A sequence of motion calibrated and deep, while the rest of the hemisphere is buried in sleep. Across the divide, we steer through the ghost of the cloud, where the engine is thunderous but the silence is loud. Pushing the metal beyond the reach of the rain, filtering the static inside of the tire brain. Through the vaporous wall, we find a hidden path, escaping the geometry of the city's aftermath. The high beams of pillars holding up the sky, as the summit approaches and the shadows drift by. Across the divide, we steer through the ghost of the cloud, where the engine is thunderous but the silence is loud. Pushing the metal beyond the reach of the rain, filtering the static inside of the tire brain. Through the vaporous wall, we find a hidden path, escaping the geometry of the city's aftermath. The high beams of pillars holding up the sky, as the summit approaches and the shadows drift by. Value dances upward on the circular gauge, turning the leaf on the dark and difficult page. Each hairpin turn is a question with a sharp reply, until for heavy velvet of a lightless sky. Rubber meeting gravel at the edge of the world, where the mystery of the voyage is slowly unfurled. The transmission writing the melody of lead and tin, keeping the madness out and the focus within. Peripheral flicker of a predator in the pine, following up that another painted yellow lines. A steady oscillation in the electronic tone, mastering the stillness of the high altitude zone. The fog opens its mouth to let the vehicle through. In the mirror, the distance is a charcoal hue. No destination needed, safety acting to drive, feeling the friction attention, proving that the pulse is alive. Across the DRIFT, we steer through the golden cloud. Every engine is thunderous, rocket science is live. Twist in the metal beyond the beach of the dirt, filtering the static inside of a Gaia brain. Through the vaporless wall, we monitor hidden depth, escaping the geometry of the zigzag command. The high beams of pillars holding up the sky, as the summit of pictures on the shadow drift by. Across the DRIFT, we steer through the gold of the cloud. Every engine is thunderous, but the silence is loud. Pushing the metal beyond the reach of the rain, filtering the static inside of a Gaia brain. Through the vaporless wall, we mine the hidden path, escaping the geometry of the city's aftermath. The high beams of pillars holding up the sky, as the summit approaching, then the shadows drift by.
make it come live. The Preston by things creeping, the Titian's cry. On live from the Pace Process, calling dark leads by the best.
Keeps the secrets in the calculated line. Gray geometry defined by a rigid local spine. I tread upon the iron veins that pulse beneath the street, with stolen steel and winter air and holy Saturn speed. The shadows cast a blueprint on the pavement down below, a mathematical result that only strangers know. No compass in my pocket, just a compass in my soul, moving through the monolith toward unwritten code.
This labyrinth of discipline where logic rules the night. The architecture weighs upon the fading traces light. I memorize the angles and the portals in the wall. I navigate measuring the distance of the fall.
Navigating by the friction of the wind against the glass, watching all the ghosts of industry and channeled currents pass. The city is a diagram drawn with the frozen hand. I walk the intersections of this well-instructed land.
The grid is alive with a heavy conviction, a map that is etched with the sharp dereliction. From number to umid of the patterns hold true. The instinct is guiding the way to pull through. Beyond the horizon, the coldness takes hold. A story of iron and arteries told.
The north and the south are a tethered debate, locked in the mesh of a permanent state. I don't need the signs or the glowing displays to find every exit and master the maze. The blood is a magnet, the bone is a key, unlocking the grid that is following me.
So bury the map in the dust of a square. The breath is a needle that pierces the air.
Each corner is sharp and each tunnel is deep. A city awake while the witnesses sleep. The instinct is wider than any design plan. The mayor remembers what's hidden from man. I follow the pulse of the underground vein until I am part of the metal and brain.
The grid is alive with a heavy conviction, a map that is etched with a sharp dereliction. From number to umid of the patterns hold true. The instinct is guiding the way to pull through. Beyond our horizon, the coldness takes hold. A story of iron and arteries told.
tectonic friction meets the white painted lines. Every molecule vibrating in a feverish dance. The speedometer needle trembles against the 0 point. Full contact patch is smaller than a closed fist. Hold back the centrifuge of a breaking world. Gravity is just a suggestion we choose to ignore. While the engine howls, swallows the silence of the valley. Maximum control, chaos in the marrow of the bone. Pushing the physical limit until the steel starts to moan. Navigation by instinct, where the traction starts to thin. The edge of the grip is where the real press begins. Maximum control, chaos in the marrow of the bone. Pushing the physical limit until the steel starts to moan. Navigation by instinct, where the traction starts to thin. The edge of the grip is where the real crash begins. The blur of the landscape becomes a liquid smear. Time expanding contracts inside a single gear. If the arc breaks hollow, then the plummet follows fast. But we live for fraction where the first becomes the last. A symphony of distance, firing in a violent sequence. Precision is the only mercy left in the racket. Side by side with the abyss along the outer rim. Watching the rubber fray into a black halo of smoke. The steering column transmits the pulse of the earth. Every crack in the pavement felt like a heartbeat. No room for hesitation in the cathedral of velocity, where the path forward is carved from pure nervous energy. Maximum control, chaos in the marrow of the bone. Push to the physical limit until the steel starts to moan. Navigation by instinct, where the traction starts to thin. The edge of the grip is where the real crash begins.
The aluminum fuselage cuts through the heavy humidity. A silver needle threading the eye of the cancer night. Below the wing, the grid pulses like a circuit board. All rivers bend in the shadows of the concrete height. I am watching the map dissolve into a cluster of veins, where the ghosts of merchants traded carbon and light. The velocity is a quiet hum behind the frozen temple, as we drift across the boundary of the urban bite. In the glass gravity of this descending arc, the distance is a mirror held against the dark. I see the city and the city sees my face, a pale stowaway in this pressurized space. My hand on my window, 1 foot in the sky, watching the wreckage of the seconds fly by. The Yodo River snakes for the back of a bay, a little ribbon tied around the throat of a day. I can count the tiny windows glowing like embers, storing the heat of a life I will never remember. The altitude drops and the pressure finds my soul. The heavy compression making the broken parts whole. We skim the rooftops where the laundry hangs still, obeying the laws of a subterranean will. In the glass gravity of this descending arc, the distance is a mirror held against the dark. I see the city and the city sees my face, a tail stowaway in this pressurized space. 1 hand on the window, 1 foot in the sky, watching the wreckage of the seconds fly by. The runway is a ladder laid out on the floor. Open the seals and unlock the pressurized door, but the vision remains carved in the back of my mind. In the glass gravity of this descending art, the distance isn't fear or health against the dark. I see the city and the city sees my voice. A pale stowaway in this pressurized space. One hand on the window, 1 foot in the sky, watching the wreckage of a second slide by. In the glass gravity of this descending art, the distance is a mirror held against the dark. I see the city and the city sees my voice. A pale stowaway in this pressurized space. One hand on the window, 1 foot in the sky, watching the wreckage of a second slide by. Osaka is beating hard in a ribcage of iron, tearing through the veil of the evening siren. We speak wire. Conversation sparked from a low burning fire. The map on the dashboard is a skeleton lead. The distance between us is sudden and brief. No need for the grammar of where we have been, when the city is breathing through the space in between. The syllables tumble like dice on the floor, searching for the handle on a locked sliding door. The billboards are shouting in the neon-less glare for the thick, humid weight of the shipyard. Aeroplane, the right words in lexicon, borrowed and engraved to describe how the harbor lights flicker and sway. Gravity pulls at the coins in my pocket like the moon pulling tight through a deep water socket. A train snakes away on a track made of bone. Even the silence is stood on its throne. I turn the key, but the movement is slow. The asphalt is drinking the headlights dough. Oh, we are just guests in this temple of noise, finding our footing and keeping our poise. Osaka is a beating heart in a ribcage of iron, tearing through the veil of the evening siren. We speak in the vows of the faraway coast, trading our shadow for the ones we love most. It is a language of mirrors and high tension wire. Composition sparked from a low burning fire. Osaka is a beating heart in a ribcage of iron, tearing through the veil of the evening siren. We ski in the vows of a faraway coast, trading our shadows for the ones we love most. It is a language of mirrors and high tension wire. Conversation sparked from a low burning fire.